Hi, I go by Ava, a creator who's lost touch with creating. Now I'm finding my way back into art, and since I want to share my journey, enjoy my first vlog. As I'm slowly rediscovering my spark, I realized that it's been years since I've handmade something. I came across other creatives who work with different kinds of clay. Only having heard of fire clay or earth clay as a kid, the kind you have to burn in a huge kiln, I never knew there are clay variants that you can easily work with at home. So let's try this. First stop was into the nearest city, only to find out the art supply shop had closed down. So instead I bought some presents for my family, whom I would be visiting soon. Recently I've been in a gift-giving mood, which also influences my desire to create again. For this time I got some fun little goodies and even some deco for myself, which I rarely do. Back at home I decided to order what I needed online, and got pretty overwhelmed. But soon I decided for airdry clay, some colors and supplies. Everything would arrive after my short trip, so I had a few days of downtime, nature and appreciating the small, whimsical details in my surroundings. Sometimes I have this feeling of losing my eye for detail, of getting lost in the daily grind. And then it's like something woke me up. Suddenly I can find the greatest joy in a little piece of decoration, the sunlight coming in through the window and so on. I think it's important to try to retain this awareness of the small things. Filming moments of my daily life actually helps me with this appreciation. So often I have this urge to capture nature, lights, the moon, or similar beautiful sights. But the photo or video can never capture how breathtaking the sight actually is. I had this feeling every day of my trip about the mountains. After these few days with family, my order finally arrived. So we have some tools and stamp blocks, the clay of course, paint, markers and varnish. For my first idea, I've even sketched out a few drafts, don't laugh. And how could it be anything other than a cute little pilea, the UFO plant that stands for prosperity, good fortune and friendship. I wanted to create something functional. That's why I shaped the pileas to be worry stones. As someone with her fair share of anxiety, that's just fitting. The plan was to color the clay before shaping, but for some reason this didn't work at all. So I opted to shape the clay, paint it, assemble some pieces and glaze everything. Then see which color combo I liked best. Bear with me, I made some mistakes. I now know that I should have probably used a little water. The clay dried out quicker than I expected, and I wasn't prepared. So yeah, it turned out a little rough around the edges. It was a challenge to get the shape right. One of the pileas is far too thin, and the colors, you will see later, actually turned out too dark for my taste, even though I tried to compare them to my real pilea plant. It actually poses a challenge for me to share something that I myself am not totally satisfied with. But this is about trying something new. Yes, I do struggle a lot with my own ideals. I'm sure you've seen this meme with someone being annoyed and it goes like, "Me when I'm not immediately a pro at a new hobby I picked up 5 minutes ago." I am that meme. But seriously, I think in the past I've managed to give myself creative burnout, because I always found something in my creations that wasn't flawless. I always aimed higher. So over time, I lost the big picture of why I was doing art or creative things. Now, I don't want to give myself this kind of pressure anymore. It's a challenge for me to film my first, very amateur, attempts with this clay and post them. But this is the point. I don't need it to be perfect. I'm allowed to try something, to not be a pro, for the result to maybe turn out different than what I had in mind, and so on. So please, enjoy me being mediocre at something new. After making my first airdry clay project, I have to say I was surprised that it took me a good amount of time. I think most was due to the drying times between sculpting, painting and such. Maybe someone can give me some insights. I think pre-colored airdry clay exists, but the shop I was ordering from didn't have it. That's why I opted for painting. The consistency really does remind me of quote-unquote real clay from what I remember from my childhood. As I said, I'm not completely happy with the colors. I didn't want it to look like a lily pad, that's why I chose rather dark colors. But now I know better, and I'm eager to try different color combos. The glazing posed one of the hardest parts, since the varnish would pool in certain areas, and when trying to correct it I ruined the paint, so I redid some spots. In conclusion, it was a very inexpensive, easy to access new project to try out. As you can see, I used a mat to keep my desk clean. There were no big messes, even though the clay does stain your fingers when you work with it. I'm glad I used gloves, since my skin is very sensitive and due to my job I have a few cuts on my fingers, which I wanted to protect. Keeping everything tidy was very easy. While shopping for airdry clay and the supplies, I of course stumbled over polymer clay. The aspect of having to bake it kind of turned me off at first, but I'm feeling intrigued. There seems to be so many pretty colors and the consistency seems to be really smooth, so I really want to try it out. I want to try my pilea design with polymer clay and experiment more with the colors, textures and the different varnish. I guess I have my new project already cut out for me. So, until next time.